Hopefully I'll have my free speech, which seems unlikely tonight because they don't want this video to be made. I want to talk about cancel culture. I tried to make a video before and it kept going off. I keep making it here and it keeps going off. So I don't know if it's censorship or what. But cancel culture, uh, we're seeing this quite strongly now in Western democracies. And I think it's a very sinister and dark and dangerous time. There was a chap in Burnley recently, a young chap, who did a um, a big banner saying "White Lives Matter" across Burnley Football Club, and for that he was vilified by the press and the media and the woke brigade, and he's lost his job. His family have been in fear. Recently, we're seeing that Tommy Robinson is fleeing the country because of Black Lives Matter sympathisers who somebody's tried to burn his house down, his wife's house down, and he's had his children verbally insulted by some thug. And that's just a little example of the cancel culture. If you don't fit in, if you don't, the woke brigade don't agree with you, then you're cancelled. And so there are people who've lost their jobs as doctors, professors, um, me, news reporters, uh, lost their Facebook, their Twitter, their PayPal, whatever. Same with in America. There's been a lot of censorship. For example, Donald Trump's son recently put a tweet on Twitter, and Twitter took it down. Whether you agree with him or not, they don't have a right to take a major political figure's tweet down. And they've even censored Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. And this cancel culture, I really wish the multinational companies, the media companies, and the establishment they're not listening. They don't want to listen. They're continually going to go down this line, and it's going to cause revolution and civil war. But I wish they would pull back and uphold democracy and uphold the rule of law for everybody. But they won't do that. And so what we're seeing now is this cancel culture, which is what I want to say is communism. It's just communism. You know, the chairman Mao had his thugs go out in the streets and they would accuse you. And if you didn't bow the knee to Chairman Mao and the Red Book, you were cancelled. The black shirts in the time of the Nazis and the fascists in Italy, if you didn't bow the knee, you were cancelled. You didn't toe the party line, you were cancelled. The same with Stalin. If you didn't follow the party line, you were cancelled. Now, I don't agree. I definitely don't agree with racism. My wife is black. I'm in Africa trying to do work in Africa, and and I've got a lovely. I just as a caveat for my supporters out there, I just want to thank you so much getting behind this charity that we're going to be starting called African Without Borders. You're going to see a video on Friday afternoon. I'm going to do a video to thank all the supporters that have financially got behind me and my wife, and I thank you so much for that. My wife's getting better. She's going to hospital tomorrow. Um, she's been taking her medicine, and we'll find out what's wrong tomorrow. So we'll pray that it will be a good result. I've eaten a lot better, and I'm going to have a good meal tomorrow. That's thanks to your donations and your help. So, and we're going to be able to have a lot of children, a lot of people here in Africa because of your support. And I want to thank you on Friday. And I've got a beautiful, wonderful surprise for all you supporters who supported us through Africa Without Borders. And so you're going to have a real treat on Friday afternoon. So that aside, um, back to the cancel culture. It's not good. If the establishment, if the far left, intellectuals especially, don't move away from this cancel culture, I'm telling you, it's going to cause civil war. I don't want a civil war. I don't want that. But the majority of people don't agree with this cancel culture. They don't agree with the narrative that the media are putting out, both in America and in Britain, and in Australia and Canada. They don't agree with it. So the vast majority are becoming hardened to this. Now, people like Ali Dawah, the Muslims, are just sitting back. The Muslim apologists and people like that, they're just sitting back. They're loving this. This is meat and drink for them to see this cancel culture, because the cancel culture is doing their work. The cancel culture is taking down any opposition for free speech. And so Ali Dawah, who's enjoying free speech, he's a Muslim apologist. Him and his Muslim apologist, they're enjoying free speech, while other people's free speech are being taken away. While the cancel culture gangs up on anybody who speaks out and takes them down, the Muslim apologists are enjoying free speech and they're loving it, and they're sitting back and they're waiting because their enemies are being taken down by the cancel culture. And then in time, when there's a revolution, when there's civil war, and the far left have been fighting patriots and all the rest of it, and when both sides are weakened, political Islam will come in and enjoy the fruits of the destruction. So that's what they're doing, just buying their time. They're just waiting for the day when they can seize power in Britain, in America, and in the Western Hemisphere. And so what do we do? Well, what we do is, in this cancel culture, in the time of Bonhoeffer, in the time of the Nazis, there were only a few theologians that spoke out. And Bonhoeffer, a German theologian, had written a book around about 1933. Around about that time, he wrote a book called The Cost of Discipleship, and he tried to mobilize the church and Christians to be salt and light in the world. And what is needed right now is people to be salt and light, is people to really, really stand up and speak out. You know, in Poland, the Berlin Wall fell down. When communism fell, it was because of the Polish Catholics. I don't agree with Catholicism, but it was the Polish Catholics that would not bow to communism, and they spoke out against the tyranny of communism. And that is the major issue that brought the Berlin Wall down. And it was the staunch strength of the Polish Catholics that would not bow to communism, and that they were supporting free speech, that brought the communists back in USSR. And so the only way to stop this, if the establishment will not pull back, and the far left intellectuals will not pull back, and the mob rule will not pull back, then the majority of British people, the majority of American people especially, the majority have to voice their opinion and say enough's enough. Now, you do that by the ballot. You go and vote, and you go and vote. But also you speak your mind, and you speak. Now, in America, people who are Trump supporters are frightened to speak out. A lot of them are vilified in their community, and they're frightened to speak out. You shouldn't be frightened. People should not be frightened. This is totalitarianism. This is it's a totalitarian state in America, in Britain, in Australia and Canada, if we get to that point where we can't speak which political party we believe in, because we're going to have our windows smashed or lose our job or whatever. Not everybody, the ordinary British man and woman, have to speak out for fairness, for the rule of law, that everybody's equal under the law, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're a barrister or royalty or whoever, we're all equal under the law. And every British man, woman in Britain has to make a stand and say, no, enough's enough. We're speaking out. Everybody has a right. Everybody has a right to a fair trial. Everybody has a right to free speech. Everybody has a right to fair play. And that's what people have to make a stand about. We have to stand up. Those people who died in the Second World War, they died so that we could have our free speech, not so that Tommy Robinson has to go and flee the country, or some lad from Burnley loses his job because he flew a flag over, and over Burnley Football Club. No, they died so that he could have his free speech. They died so that Tommy could have his free speech. And they died so that Donald Trump could be a president without fear or favour, without him being cancelled. They died so that his son could have free speech. They died for all of us so that we could have our free speech, both in America and the UK. So freedom is so precious. Once it's lost, it's very hard to get back. And we've lost our freedom in America. We've lost our freedom in Britain, in Canada and Australia. It's been taken over by a small elite of virtue signalling, woke, politically correct, far left nutters. Basically, the culture's been taken over by woke, politically correct, far left nutters who really don't even understand the basics of of um, of democracy. And all this demonization, all this demonizing everybody, um, and calling everybody a racist, and this race bait politics and all this, it's just going to cause more and more division, more and more upset, and create a kind of race war. And that's what the far left want. That's what the far left want. They want a race war in America. They want a race war in Britain. Why? Because they can't get political power. And the communists love it. China loves it because there's a basic rule in communism in China and in Russia. There's a basic rule that the KGB had. And the basic rule is this, is that it'll take like 10 to 20 years to take over a country. And so what they do is they infiltrate it with intellectuals in the university. So they get the intellectuals in, the professors into the university. And they've done that in America. They've done that in Britain, in Australia, and in Canada, in France, in Germany, in Holland. They get the professors in and they teach the students about identity politics. And what that is to alienate them from their own country and to cause division within the country. So as they brainwash, and the thing about that is they brainwash the people, the students, so that they can't think. So a lot of these far left students, they can't think. They don't know how to do critical thinking. They're just full of anger and rage, and they don't know how to think. And so then this generation of students, now this has been going on like not 20 years, this has actually been going 60 years, and the communists are absolutely over the moon. Chinese and the Russians, they're absolutely so happy what's taking place in America and in Britain. They're just loving it. They're absolutely loving it because they've taken over and nobody realizes it. So these professors teach the students, and then the students teach more students. Some of these students become professors, and some of these students get into politics, and they become governors, they become councillors in America and Britain around the West. And they become journalists, and then they begin to slowly take over the culture. And that's what we're seeing. So even though you win politically like Trump has and Boris Johnson, the culture war has been won by the far left. So as they've done that, they still can't take over, they still can't dominate, they still can't control everything. So they have to create crisis. So they feel that the middle class are like soft. They don't like hardship, right? So what they do is they'll create hardship. So they've created hardship with the COVID-19. They've created hardship with all these riots. And what they're trying to do is wear down the American public. They're trying to wear down the British public. So the British public will be fed up of these riots, fed up of this COVID-19. The American public will be fed up of the riots. They'll be fed up of the COVID-19. And then in the end, they'll just be crying out for mercy. Oh, someone save us. That's when the far left come. Then the far left said, we'll save you. We've got the answer. We're going to give you all free healthcare, free money, free this, free that. And they'll give you these big promises. And they get loads of people on their side, like using Black Lives Matter, trying to get the blacks on their side, yeah? The black vote and the black people, right? And to the neo-Marxists, they have a term for this. They call them the useful idiots, all right? So you're just a useful idiot. You're being used by the neo-Marxists, All right. So Black Lives Matter is just a bunch of useful idiots for the far left. So the useful idiots do the job. Black Lives Matter, defend racism, defend against racism, pull down the monuments and everything. And the neo-Marxists who are involved in this, it's like you're the useful idiots, get it done. Now, these far left people and and students, then they do the dirty work. They help to get power. So then the communists come in and they get power, but they don't do what the far left wanted. They don't do that. In the end, when they get power in America and Britain and Australia and Canada, they're not going to do what these young far left people want. They're going to be disillusioned, but by then it's too late. By then, they've got the strings of power and they're not going to let go. That's when they tighten the grip. That's when you go to the gulag. That's when China has over 1 million Muslims in prison and tens of thousands in it, and probably we don't hear about it, but probably millions of Christians in prison. And that's when you'll go to prison in America, you'll go to prison in Britain, you'll go to prison in Australia, and in Canada, in the gulag. And you'll be accused of thought crimes. And just as in China, they are brainwashing the Muslims and the Christians, putting them in these programs, yeah, you will be put in a program to do reorientation for your thinking, and you'll be in prison and you'll have to do these programs for years. And basically, it's got one more step from the cancel culture to this ultra authoritarian communist regime. And that's where we're going, okay? But in the midst of that, they've stabbed themselves in the foot, because in Europe they've allowed 40 million Muslims to come to Europe, and there are at least 40 million Muslims in Europe, and those Muslims will want political rights. And Islam does not separate state and church. Islam does not do that. So Islam, the mosques, the imams will demand political power in Canada, in Australia, in France, in Holland, in Switzerland, in Belgium, in America. When they start to demand their political rights, they will say, in Britain, Birmingham is an Islamic state. Texas is an Islamic state. New York is an Islamic state. Canada, Ontario is an Islamic state. They'll start to make statements like that in the coming years, and it will cause more and more upheaval, more and more revolution. And this is where we're going. So cancel culture is just the birth pangs of totalitarianism. And this COVID-19 is part of this communist takeover. It's not, yes, there is a real COVID-19. Yes, people are getting ill, but it's being being politicized. It's being used as a political weapon to take down any patriots who believe in their country. If you don't believe me, I can prove my point categorically. If you think I'm going crazy, I'll prove my point. Okay, are you ready? In America, you had in one state, you had thousands of people on the street. They were dancing, gyrating, Black Lives Matter, dancing, moving their butts, drinking, partying. Yeah, no mass, thousands of them. And yet, I think this is in California, and then there were churches that were empty. So they're allowing this party of Black Lives Matter chilling out, enjoying themselves. No mass, thousands of them, and yet churches were kept quiet a few weeks ago. You know, that's politics. That's politics and hypocrisy going on. And so the COVID-19 is just a political weapon to silence free speech, to silence us, and to wear us down and to break us down, so that in the end, when the communists come and say, you know, we've got the answer, everybody say, oh, we're fed up of COVID-19, we're fed up of these riots, oh, thank goodness someone's going to save us. And they'll offer us all these treats, they'll offer us all this money and all these jobs and free this, free that, free this, free that, and we'll all say, yeah, yeah, you're our savior. And then they'll take over and we'll be in the gulag. Anybody who speaks out, you'll be in the gulag. That's what's the reality of it. So this cancel culture, people smile and go, "Oh, it's the cancel culture." No, no, no. This is dark, evil, sinister, wicked. It's a wicked, evil thing, and it's a very, very sinister thing, and it's part of the revival of communism in the West and the takeover of the West. These capitalist billionaires like Soros and Bill Gates, they have some kind of weird thing in their head that they think they're the saviors of the world. Soros is on record; he wants to destroy America. Bill Gates is on record. He wants to make a worldwide vaccine. Why does he want to make a worldwide vaccine? He was in India a few years ago with his company, and India gave them the run of their medical care to help polio or something, some kind of disease. I think it was polio, but some disease, and they were to bring up the vaccine. And his vaccines made more damage to people with polio that the Indian government had to kick him out. And yet, this is the same guy who wants to bring us a world vaccine. Why does he want to bring us a world vaccine? What's that all about? What is all that about? Why does someone want? Why does Bill Gates want to be the main man to run all the vaccines for COVID-19? You think about it. What's that all about? What it's all about is that part of this communist revival and communist takeover is these people are involved in it, and they're part of it. They're part of it. And these other billionaires, they think they're going to get wealthy and rich by China. They think they're going to get China's going to bless them. But at the end of the day, China is not going to bless them. China is a beast that wants to destroy and control, and she is using these billionaires as a little tool to control and take down Western civilization. And she's done it under the radar. She's prepared the ground for years. She kept quiet, but now she's flexing her muscles. She's flexing her muscles, and COVID-19 is part of her flexing her muscles. She let this COVID-19 out of her borders and spread. She knew it was spreading. And then when it had spread around the world, then she told everybody, close your borders. Yeah. So I'm just saying that this cancel culture and all this staying in and social distancing, it suits China. Why? Because it means American economy collapses. It means British economy collapses. It means European economy collapses. African economy collapses. And who benefits from that? China, because all these countries are in debt to China. America's in debt to China. Britain's in debt to China. Africa's up to its knees in debt to China. So if governments collapse financially, who's going to benefit? China. So China's happening. Who's in charge of the World Health Authority? China. China. Their main man who runs that is a China appointee. All right. So some of these people who've been on the TV in America, who've been speaking about COVID-19, they're all in the pocket of China. China finances them. Fauci, or whatever his name is, has been heavily involved in Wuhan, in the Wuhan lab, heavily involved in that before the COVID-19 broke out, and the COVID-19 broke out in Wuhan, and this Fauci guy who's on TV in America, who's the main health advisor to Donald Trump, he's been involved with the Wuhan lab for years. There's a lot going on that China's been doing and manipulating. There was a professor recently, a few months ago, arrested. I think it was from Harvard, and he was heavily involved in the Wuhan, and he was arrested recently. We haven't heard anything about it. So there's been a lot going on. What China's been getting involved in giving Western academics, Western universities, Western companies, Western intellectuals, pampering them with lots of money, lots of opportunity to gain a reputation and research money and all the rest. And for payment, they have to play the Chinese Chinese song. So all I'm saying is this cancel culture. People smile and go, "It's the cancel culture." There's nothing to smile about. This is 1984 George Orwell. Time is here. All right. Tucker, a news reporter on Fox News, I think it was the New York. No, I don't know if it was the New York Times or Washington Post. One of them, I can't remember. But they docked his. They did a piece on him about where his house was, knowing that it was threatening him to keep silent. You know, we told people where your house is, so you better be quiet or else. Yeah. Why? To silence him. To silence him. So when things are going on like that, this is dark, evil time. This is only going to get worse. I'm sorry to say that this is only going to get worse. There was one city in America. There was a couple of hundred black militia turned up with AK-44s, and one of them not well trained. You're not supposed to have your finger on your AK when you train, and they walked into the city, and the guy had his finger on the thing, and he shot himself and two others. Okay, 200 black militia went into a city, and the police and other militia that were not a Black Lives Matter, or not Black Lives Matter. It was a different black militia, but they were in sympathy with them. A group of militia that were not supporting them came, and there was a standoff. Why? Why? Because free speech has been broken down, and people are getting more sick and tired of this mob rule, and they're fed up of it in America, and the same's going to happen in Britain. So these elites and these people and the media that are spinning this cancel culture, they're creating a whole world that is going to backfire on them. And an example of that is there was a mayor recently who encouraged the mob rule of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and this mayor, this leftist mayor, goes in the midst of them to think they're going to be on his side and side with him. And what happens? They turn on him. So these far left mayors in America and in Britain and politicians, they're fueling this fire, this mob rule stuff, and it's coming out to bite them. And I'm sad to say it's going to cause revolution. The only hope, the only hope in all this, two hopes really. One is that the ordinary American people and the ordinary British people see through all this nonsense and say enough's enough, and say, you know what, I'm not having my country destroyed by this mob rule, by this far left neo-Marxist nonsense. I'm defending my country, and I'm speaking out. And I'm not only willing to speak out, I'm also willing to do it the Irish way. Do you know what the Irish did? The far left came to Dublin a few days ago. All right, the far left, Antifa and the Black Lives Matter neo-Marxists came to Dublin, and you know what met them? About a couple of thousand Irish patriots. They set up tables, they set up their music, played their Irish national music, and they were waiting for them. And they basically said, you leave us or else. And the police were there. But I tell you what, those Black Lives Matter and those Antifa, they were out of that city in no time. They went out. Why? Because the Irish people stood up for their country. Thought, we're not having your Soros revolution come into our city. No way. And they stood their ground. And there have been American militia that have gone into towns, and when Black Lives Matter have come, the American militia have stood there, said, you kick off and you're going to get it. Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they've shot off, left the city, left the town, because people stood up to them, you know. And that's what the ordinary, and that needs British people to stand up to the media, to the politicians, and to all these people who are trying to destroy America and trying to destroy Britain. You know, Nicholas Sturgeon, apparently I've heard, wants to silence free speech. You know, free speech is gone in Scotland apparently, from what I'm hearing. Well, I'm sorry to say, but people need to make a stand. People need to be willing to make a stand. There's no compromise here. There's no let's nicey about it. No, I mean, you've got to be willing to pay the price for your freedom. You've got to be willing to make a stand for your freedom. And that means you've got to make a stand and speak out. You've got to go to Scottish Parliament and you've got to stand there and tell them that enough's enough. I want my free speech and don't take no for an answer. The same with the media in Scotland. You've got to kick up a fuss and you've got to make them understand that they can't do that. Do some Martin Luther King and Gandhi style activism. Go and tie yourself to the Scottish Parliament. Go and into Scottish Parliament and just stand there and refuse to leave until they take out that law that they put in that takes away free speech. People have to make a stand. Everybody, the British people, the American people, everybody has to start making up a stand and standing up for free speech, because this cancel culture is only the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the end of Western civilization, and it's not to be tolerated. No politician who advocates it should be tolerated. Not anybody who advocates this cancel culture, you prove them wrong by the person who they're cancelling. You go and interview them, you go and do videos with them and say, no, you can't cancel this person, they're entitled to their free speech, and undermine the cancel culture. Defend those who are being cancelled. Defend them. Because if you don't defend them, it'll be you next. It'll be you next losing your job. It'll be you next that's targeted. And it needs people to be tough and willing to make a stand. You've got to be tough-minded and strong and saying, no, we're not being intimidated anymore. And you've got to stand up to the bullies. You've got to stand up to the bullies. Because if you don't, then the communists are going to take over. And when the communists have done their job and taken over, they will have messed up the nation of America and Britain and Australia and Canada. And political Islam will say, thank you very much. We'll take over now, boys. We've got it all worked out. So we've got to make our stand now, because if we don't make our stand now, our freedom will not be able to stand in the next 5 to 10 years. We will be too weak, too frail to be able to make that stand. While we have some opportunity, we need to take that opportunity and grasp it with both hands now. People have to wake up. People have to realize that basically there's a war going on. There's a silent war that's been going on, and that war has been the dismantling of Western civilization by neo-Marxists, and they're winning. But God willing, the British people are waking up, and the American people. Good thing is, the American people are waking up and the British people are waking up that Black Lives Matter is nothing but a tool of the neo-Marxists. That is a good thing. And people are waking up that the media are not being straight, they're not being honest, and they're undermining democracy. The good thing is that the British people and the American people do not support mob rule. They support free speech and they support the rule of law. So the good thing is the majority of people in Britain, in America, in Australia, in Canada do have some common sense. And that's what we need at the moment. We need common sense. Everybody has to have a bit of common sense. People need to wake up and have a bit of common sense. I will defend your right to the death to have free speech. I might not agree with you, but I will defend your right to the death. So long as you don't promote violence, so long as you don't promote violence to somebody, I will defend your right to free speech. I will defend your right to stand up and say your voice. I might not agree with it. I might not like it. I might even hate it. But I'm still going to defend your right to have freedom of speech. Because you know why? It's common sense. And if common sense goes out the window, if common sense goes out of Britain and America and the West, then we're finished. So we need a bit of common sense. And we need to, everybody needs to calm down, stop race baiting politics and saying you're racist and all this, and cut it out. No, I'm married to a black lady. I'm married to a Ghanaian lady. I don't see her as black. I just see her as my wife. I don't see her as, oh, this is a black lady. I'm working with black children and black youth around here. I don't see them as black. I just see them as children. But the moment you start saying Black Lives Matter, then you're racist. You're just being racist. Yeah. You're putting an adjective to the noun to describe something. Why don't you just say, no, we're all equal, we're all the same, yeah? I understand that black people have been persecuted in the past, and we have to have sympathy concerning that past history. But we have to move on. We have to encourage reconciliation. We have to encourage understanding, working together, supporting each other, not pulling each other down, not demonizing each other, not taking away people's free speech and having a cancel culture. That's not the way to go. That's the way to that way goes to revolution. It divides people and it destroys people. That's what the neo-Marxists want. Okay. Now behind all this is a spiritual battle, and I believe that the ultimate answer, in the end, this is all prophesied in the Bible. The Bible prophesies in the end times that Israel will be attacked. It prophesies that there will be a revival of the Jews. It prophesies that there'll be apostasy in the church, and then there'll be a turning to Christ by the Jewish people. And apparently in Ukraine, many Jewish people are coming to Christ. It prophesies that there'll be wars and all these things that we see today, famines and etc. And it prophesied that the Lord will come back. And so we need to realize that Christ is coming back. These are the last days, and the church is being assaulted. This is an attack upon the church, and the church needs to stand up, and the church needs to speak out, and the church needs to go forward. And John MacArthur in California, who is the pastor of Grace to You Church, he has stood out. He has made a stand. You know, his church, there are over, I think, 10,000 people in his church, but 3,000 people of his church came back to his church and insisted that they meet for worship. They don't wear masks. They don't abide by what the government is saying in California, because they feel that, you know, they have doctors there, they have medical staff there that know a lot about these things, and they've advised John MacArthur that the risk is negligible. So they don't go along with the Californian guidelines, which are discriminatory. They destroy the First Amendment. The First Amendment gives the right to freedom of worship, but to say that people can't meet in their churches, they can't worship, they can't sing, this is an interference of the First Amendment of the United States of America. It's the United States of America. It's the land of the free, or supposedly. So John MacArthur has done the right thing. Yes, there is a medical issue concerning COVID-19, but you have to balance that with freedom, the freedom to assemble and the freedom to worship. And he spoke out against that. And his church meet now. So, you know, people have to be bold. People have to make a stand for freedom. Yes, do the right thing medically in terms of wash your hands and whatever, but at the end of the day, people have a right to worship and to meet and to worship their God. So the church has to make a stand. People have to speak out against this cancel culture. People have to speak out against all this race-based politics and encourage more understanding and community cohesion and care and love for each other. People need to encourage free speech and dialogue and discuss. People need to keep an eye on political Islam, because that is a very dangerous thing that's coming. It's not Islamophobia. This is not Islamophobia. I'm against Islamophobia. This is just absolute basic fact. Go and Google what's happening to France. France is falling. France is collapsing because of political Islam. Go and research yourself and find out about political Islam and the problems that it's causing in France. And it's coming to us in Britain, and we mustn't take our eye off the ball. This is not Islamophobia. This is a fact of life. It's a fact of history that is coming our way, and people need to be prepared for this. People need to get ready for political Islam and be willing to stand up against it, because they are just like the communists, will take away our free speech. They are not sweetness and light. They are pouring millions, they are literally pouring millions of pounds into Dawa teams. These oil-rich Saudis and people like that, they're pouring millions of dollars, millions of pounds into Muslim apologist teams and Dawa teams around Britain. And you'll see them with their tables, you'll see them with their multimedia, all professional and slick. Why? Because they're out to take down Britain. They want to take over Britain. They see it as a prize. It's one of the jewels in their crown. They're not trying to take Canada, take Ghana. They're not trying to take some of these African countries, apart from maybe Nigeria and a few others, because they've already got them in the bag. But they want the West. They've not. They've got an unfinished business with the West, and they want to take the West, and they are coming for Britain. So people have to be ready for them. People have to get ready and prepare yourselves spiritually, mentally, intellectually, emotionally. You need to be spreading the Christian faith. You need to be teaching people about the Christian faith. You need to be getting Bibles out. You need to be doing everything you can to spread the Christian faith in Britain. You need to be calling people back to the gospel of Jesus Christ. You need to be encouraging Bible study in homes, church planting, mission, everything. You've got to push back and do whatever you can to spread the gospel. And you've got to go into politics, some of you, and defend the faith in political realm. And in the media, you've got to start think tanks and media outlets so people can have free speech. So when political Islam comes, you've got a way of defending yourself. Because the church, the Anglican church, the Methodist church, the Baptist church, they're just going to hand the keys to Islam, political Islam. They're just going to give them the keys, because they'll be meeting to worship with the Muslim imams in the next few years in Britain. So you don't want to rely upon the mainstream denominations. The church needs to go underground. It needs to meet in houses. It needs to teach and train and get ready for the persecution that's going to come with political Islam, and get ready to push back politically and spiritually in mission and evangelism, and prepare for revival in Britain and America, so that the gospel can spread and people can get saved. Because things are going to get tough, things are going to get difficult, things are going to get hard in the West. So this cancel culture is the birth pangs of the end. It's the birth pangs of the end. It's totalitarianism that's come on our watch. And people of the British people and the American people, the ordinary British people, the ordinary American people, the ordinary Canadian people, the ordinary Australian people, and the French people, and the German people, and the Dutch people, every ordinary person has to realize that totalitarianism has come on our watch. We've been caught sleeping, and it's time to wake up and shake the shackles off and to defend our freedoms, because this is our last stand. If America goes, if Britain goes, if France goes, then it's all over, because it'll be a domino effect. Other places will go. So we need to wake up. We need to make our stand. We need to be strong and determined. We need to all stand together and work together. All those who believe in their nation states and all those who believe in their countries need to work together and stand together. All those Christians who believe that we're in dark times need to stand together and preach the gospel, spread the gospel as much as we can with all our might while we have still a little bit of opportunity. We need to continue to use those doors to get the gospel out and fight with every ounce of our being in every way we can to spread the gospel while we can. But everybody of us, we need to get together, stand together, and defend our freedoms. So when one falls, we stand with them. When another falls, we stand with them. And we need to prepare our minds for the opposition against the far left and political Islam. They are strong and they are determined and they are out to win. We need to be strong. We need to be determined. We need to be stronger in our minds than them. Otherwise, they'll beat us. So everybody has to prepare their minds for battle, prepare their minds for what's ahead, and toughen up and get ready and prepare yourself, because it's going to get tough in the few weeks and months and years ahead. So everybody needs to prepare themselves mentally, physically, prepare yourself spiritually for the conflicts that are coming in the years to come. Get yourself ready now. And this cancel culture is the beginning of the end. It's totalitarianism has come on our watch, and we didn't see it coming, and it's come overnight. But now it's time to prepare ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually for a humongous battle for freedom in the Western civilization. God bless you.